So, once again, you were talking about the community and how it's kind of gotten more sustainable and grown over the past couple years.
Yeah. Well, when I first started the community 6 years ago or so, it was really just me and a couple friends, and we would come out every weekend and invite people, and if nobody came, whatever, and we didn't show up, usually nobody else would come. But in the last couple of years, it's gotten completely self-sustaining. There's always people here. There's like a pretty good sized group, whether or not I show up. They're self-motivated and they want to learn. So it's pretty awesome. It's a really good, flourishing community.
And you've been going for about 6 years now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's interesting. A lot of people are trying to experiment with different formats, and I wasn't really a fan of the Ultimate Parkour Challenge or the. I mean, it was interesting to watch it, but to me, it was much more for the spectators than it was for the athletes.
Yeah.
I feel like most competitions are that way. The athletes are there because it's fun. They're getting paid to go to another country or whatever. But I mean, that's just kind of my thing. It's fun to watch.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to work at a gym, but I don't drive and there aren't any gyms nearby, so pretty much all outdoors now. Definitely outside, yeah. Most of the injuries I've had have been in the gym.
Yeah.
It's very different. A lot of my students who learned exclusively in the gym, they never went outside, and when they did go outside, they had a lot of mental barriers that they couldn't get over, but I still think it's valuable, you know, like going into a gym to be able to try things and set up things and recreate them, but in my experience, you can do almost all of those things outside too. You just have to kind of look for it, you know?
Yeah.
Mostly sprains and fractures. I've taken a couple really big falls. I fractured both of my wrists. My knee is pretty bad, split my knee open. I've never really broken anything. I guess I've broken small bones, like a finger and a toe, but yeah, nothing too serious. Rest, recovery, rest, ice, compression, elevation, and I tend to keep training, and I just try and adapt my movement to whatever the injury is. I'll just not use my hand, keep my hand behind me or whatever, or focus on upper body training, or just do conditioning over that recovery period, kind of depending on the situation.
Cool. Thank you.
I think a big part of it's using your imagination. A lot of people kind of walk around and they can't think of anything to do. But if you can kind of get back into that mindset that you had when you were a kid, where you can really just sort of, I don't know, maybe play lava, imagine that the ground is lava, climb on things, and learn how to just look at your environment differently and play with it. I think that's a big thing. And watching other people and getting inspired by the way they move or the paths that they take, that can really help you too in the beginning. I really love teaching, and I love sharing the discipline of parkour and the philosophy of parkour. Those things are really important to me. I think a lot of people enjoy the more superficial aspects of it, which are great too, but they overlook the deeper aspects, the history and the mindset. I think those are really beautiful things too that I appreciate personally. I want people to kind of get inspired by that, maybe also contribute to the community and see the community as a resource, and rather than just looking to the commercial outlets.
First and foremost, don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. You're going to lose control just because you don't feel in your zone, you know, you feel out of place, and so you're not thinking about everything to be safe. Second, if you're not having fun with your parkour, you're obviously doing it wrong. You got to be creative and imaginative, and I don't know, people think if you're having too much fun then it's too much like playing, but that's where you make the most progress, honestly, is just experimenting with it. Train in groups and also train alone, like they're both super important and they both train different aspects. Like alone you're being more creative and more thoughtful on your own, but then when you're training with other people, their different styles will help you and vice versa, and you can come to different, I don't know, conclusions about moves or different lines that you can see that you wouldn't be able to on your own. Yeah.